of what I had told him was my introduction, so I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to speak because Mama Faye, as you've heard, she has no hands and no feet, and I think her story is just incredible. But I hope that my story can also inspire someone out there, or just, can help someone get their dream. So my story would mostly revolve around my mom, who is the main reason why I got to where I am. So I'll start from somewhere here. Like a lot of moms, my mom said a few things that shaped the person I am today. One of them was, if you ever went to a market where people lay out their problems and you read what some of them are going through, you would pack up your own problems and go back home. This made me believe that no matter what difficulty I was facing, someone else was having a tougher time. We all have different levels of what we can handle. I was born in a large family of 9. My father's first wife had unfortunately passed on and left 5 children. My mother was the second wife and had 4 more kids. So my dad. I remember my dad recording our voices on a cassette player, and then he would play it back to us when we were kids, like almost older than Daria, and they were just really happy times. However, his drinking became a serious problem, and he would be violent towards my mom in our presence, and they eventually separated for good. My mom was now a single mother to 4 children, and our only source of income was her as a vegetable seller. She barely made enough for us to eat, but somehow daily there was food on the table. Even with all this going on, life was still magical for us. We would sit around the... Oh, did I mix it up? We would sit around the fire singing nice songs. And despite her not knowing English, her favorite song was "Don't Worry, Be Happy." I just remember her singing that. I also look forward to the days when the sales were good because my mother would always give me a shilling to buy myself a sweetie the next day. I don't know what the equivalent of shilling is, but it's like a really small amount. Her biggest dream was to see me finish school. I still have a picture in my head of my mom sitting outside on the veranda. I don't know if the picture has shown of our house when it comes up. Yeah. I still have a picture of her sitting outside, and I had her doctor's card in my hand. I asked, why does this say bleeding? I thought like the teacher told us we were supposed to do this when we grew up. And she tried to smile and said yes, but when it's too much, we need to see a doctor. Then in a sort of passive way, she said, the doctor has told me that I have cancer. I didn't even know how big the word cancer was because I thought it's like a common cold that just goes away. Back in school, the teacher called me to the staff room one day and said, what are your dreams? What would you like to be when you leave school? At the time, my education was sponsored by the World Vision Organization, which was helping a lot of kids who were performing well in school. My dreams of furthering my education were honestly not even there. By now, my mom was constantly in and out of hospital and finally went through a major surgery, which meant that she could no longer work. But stubbornness and determination would best describe her because she still left every morning at 4 o'clock to look for vegetables, and she would be back at 3 p.m., sit outside on the veranda, and then head off to the market to sell the vegetables. But unfortunately, the cancer was winning, and she had to be transported back to Tanzania, which is where she is originally from. I stayed with a teacher so I could finish my exams. This was sometime in June 2002. I visited her again in October. She looked weak but had a big smile on her face as I updated her on everything that was happening. When it was time to leave, I ran back. I just remember giving her a hug and said, I'll see you again in a month when I finish my exams. The day came and I was traveling back to give her the good news, and I had all these success cards that I wanted her to see. But unfortunately, she was never to see the dream come true because she had succumbed to the illness 2 weeks before. And had been buried. One of the requirements was that I take my results to the pastor every term. It, however, didn't go very well, as one day he asked me to take the results to his place, and I remember him sitting on the couch and telling me, "Are you ready to do anything to get yourself out of this poverty?" I said, "Yes." He moved closer, and then he said, he just started telling me how he likes it when people respect him, and apparently I respected him a lot. And then at this point I panicked because he was very close. It seemed my hopes were about to be crushed. One of the church members took me to Nairobi. This was my first time in Nairobi. I was so happy. And spoke to the bishop on my behalf. I could hear the bishop shouting in the other room saying how they can't afford to add a child because they already had a children's home. But luck was on my side, and they sent me to school 2 weeks later. This is the last part. When we closed school, I went home to my mom's sister because this is where I was staying then, and I found quite an unexpected letter. It was from a man called Rudy Russell from Germany. His letter started by saying, "Dear Mary, I've heard about your circumstances from Pastor Tega," I hope I'm pronouncing it right, "and couldn't help but admire your courage. He also said that he was going to pay my school fees for the remaining years." I know the words because for the next years I read this letter almost every day. This was a man I had never met. He was like thousands of miles away, but he cared enough to say the most encouraging words I've ever heard. He also had a really nice handwriting. He was 88 years old and had worked as a journalist during the World War. I finished high school, scored 396 out of 500, which meant, oh, thank you. Which meant I was able to get a government loan for university. I then graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Communications and Public Relations. I've met so many people here through miles, and I've seen how life is not cheap, and there are so many bills to pay, and there's just so much of the world to see. You could choose to be in Italy or whatever, because Italy is where I know is good. But it takes a lot of heart, and you've all chosen to be here because it will lighten the burden. It's all worth it, and I'm so glad that my sponsor did not give up on me. I hope that in a small way, I have also managed to lighten someone else's burden, even if it's by giving them a word of encouragement. Throat is really dry, but I'm going to try to do something. I'm going to try to sing a song. The one that my mom loved so much, and I hope you can all help me. If someone could just by snapping your finger if you can.